Have you noticed how football these days is completely awash with statistics? You've got those top trump style cards that you can trade with each other that's got the player's personal attributes. Obviously, you've got the computer games which do the same sort of thing. And when you watch it on the TV, there's so many intricate stats, XG and all those wagon wheels that they put up. And of course, the managers and the coaches, they use intricate stats to try and scout players and to work out which players fit their system. Well, all this sort of use of statistics is a really good example of the Marxist concept of rarefication. Let me explain. And if you're new here, my name is Ollie. I'm a professor of human geography. I teach Marxist thought, and I really like football as well. And I'm doing a series which combines them, and I think this is part 9. So the term rarefication was actually coined by Georg Lukács, who was a Hungarian philosopher in the 1920s. Now, he was building on what Marx was talking about with relation to the commodity. But what the term refers to is the fact that under the contemporary capitalist society, everything, including who we are and what we do, is given a number, or it is attempted to be codified and quantified in some way, because the market can then use that to rank us and to pitch us against other people in a competitive environment. Think about it. Everything in our society these days is ranked. Cities, universities, schools. Even when you apply for a job, you have to do some sort of score test sometimes, and they cream off the top 20% for interviews. Everything is given, or it's attempted to be given, a number, some sort of quantifiable statistic, which can then be used as a shorthand, as a rank against quality. Now, there are some other parts of life which don't adhere to that. Things like culture, art. These things are very resistant to that, although in some instances they do try to apply that. Now, sport kind of sits somewhere in the middle because it stems from a bodily and very subjective desire to better yourself, but ultimately the success of sport is measured in numbers, like how many goals you score, the fastest time, for example. So sport sits somewhere kind of in between those two. Now, the critique of this rarefication process is that what it does is that it flattens out what is deeply subjective, sometimes ethical, even moral judgments and spheres of life, and it just kind of turns them into a thing, a number, a quantifiable statistic, which can just then be used to rank something and then move on. It doesn't allow for the deeply subjective, qualitative characteristics of that thing to come through. And of course, with football, we're seeing this happening right before our eyes, the rarefication of the game through this massively increased use of statistics. Think about it. The players themselves are becoming more like commodities because, how quickly they press, what's their XG, all this stuff is used not only in the media to sort of rank them with the cards and the wagon wheels that we see, but also in terms of how they're paid, because obviously it has an effect on who hires them, on which kind of team they might want to play for. And so it has a real actual effect on the lives and actually the deeply qualitative nature of how a footballer trains to become a footballer. Incidentally, if you've seen the film Moneyball, you'll know about this because it was a film which tells the real life story of how a particular guy in baseball, a guy called Billy Beane, he revolutionized the sport by using stats to scout players. And actually that was taken into football by Sam Allardyce, of all people, in Bolton back in the early 2000s. And so football became very much statistically driven because of the use of stats actually from baseball. What are the results of this rarefication? What's the outputs, if you like, of flattening out the football realm into pure statistics and quantifiable values? Well, we're seeing it right now. There was an instance where a lot of the players were willing to go on strike due to the sheer number of games that they have to play, but also in terms of the values that we place on them, in terms of their transfer value, they're expected to have an immediate return straight away because they've been bought precisely because of their statistical worth. And as fans, as consumers, we expect that return straight away too. Ultimately, what rarefication does is that it dehumanizes, it desubjectifies the social world. It replaces judgment with computation. It replaces atmospheres with a number. It replaces the real depth of human emotion, creativity, intelligence, and all those sorts of things with some sort of computized equation that can be put into a spreadsheet. So that is what rarefication does. And we are seeing it more and more in the beloved, beautiful game of football.